Welcome back, coders! I'm Miss Blair and I will be leading you through the Coding Camp series. I want to let you know that this series builds upon each lesson. The first lesson, Talk to the Animals, was posted on September 1st. It goes over the basics of Scratch and vocabulary you'll need to know. Feel free to start there and then catch up. These videos aren't going anywhere. Alright, today's lesson is called Flying Bird. As always, we start by going to the website scratch.mit.edu and clicking on the Create button. Today's program uses more advanced math to make a bird fly up and down at different speeds. To make the bird fly, we are going to use a variable to store the speed of the bird. By increasing the speed of the bird, it will look as though gravity is pulling it toward the ground. The bird will also use animation to flap its wings. Today's key concept is using variables to represent gravity. To create realistic and smooth acceleration, we are going to increase the speed variable for every loop. Then, we're going to change the y value of the bird by the figure stored in the speed variable. All right, let's get coding, coders. First, we are going to remove the cat and paint our own sprite. So after trashing our kitty cat, we're going to hover over the Choose a Sprite button, scroll up to the Paintbrush tool, and click on it. Once we are inside the Costumes pane, we are going to draw the bird. So we are going to go ahead and draw our bird rather large because we're going to go back into our code and change the size of our bird, just like we have been doing in the past few lessons. It's easier if you draw your bird larger, just that way you can add all the details to it. It's easier to draw on something big than something small. So we're going to click on the rectangle tool. I want to make sure that there is no outline for my birdie bird. And you can pick whatever color bird you want. I'm feeling a purple bird today. So I'm going to choose this bright color of purple. You can choose whatever color you want. And we're going to draw a rectangle inside this square. You're going to click and hold, just like you would in Paint, and draw a rectangle and drop it. I'm going to click out of my rectangle because I want my head, which we're going to do another rectangle over here, to be slightly darker. So I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to change the brightness to make it a little darker. Then I'm going to click and make a head. Awesome. Now I want to draw an eyeball. To do so, I want it to be white. So we're going to go here and here. There we go. Now we've got white. Going to draw a white eyeball. And then inside the white eyeball, we need the black part. Boom! Just like that. Our bird still needs a beak, so we're going to go to orange. There we go. Now I got some of my colors back. Let's see. Let's find a good. Do this. There we go. There we go. So let's see. Orange is a little harder to make. There we go. Now we have an orange. I'm going to draw one small little rectangle here. I'm going to do that copy. So the Control-C, Control-V that we have used for just about all of our lessons. And then there's my little birdie beak. So I have my rectangular body, my square-ish head, square eyeball, little black iris, and then my two rectangles for the beak. We're going to make two costumes, one with wings up and one with wings down, so that when we do our code, it's going to look like our bird is flapping their wings. So in order to make sure that our body is exactly the same and only our wings are changing, we are going to duplicate this costume. In order to duplicate this, we're going to go over here into our Costumes pane. We are going to right-click on Costume 1, and we duplicate. So now I should have two different costumes. I have Costume 1, costume 2, they look exactly the same. So now we can make our wings. So I'm going to click on my dark head so that I can have that dark color again because I want my wings to be in the dark color. I'm going to click back on my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw flappy wings. I'm going to Control C those wings, click on costume 2, and here's my Control V. All right, and then I'm going to slide it down here. There we go. So if we click on costume 1, wings are up. Costume 2, wings are down. Very, very good. So now we want to make them flap. We're going to go back to our code. We're going to add code to our bird. Do you want to name your bird? Let's name our bird. We don't name our bird very often. I'm going to name mine Joe. So I'm going to name my bird Joe. Press enter. There we go. I feel like our bird should have a name. So Joe. Let's give Joe some code. We're going to start with events. And we want our program to start when our flag is clicked. So we pull over that first block. Control. We have a forever loop because we want our wings to flap forever during our game. So remember, when we wanted to switch costumes, we did this last class when we made our kitty cat run towards the butterfly. So that is under looks because we want it to switch costumes. So we're going to go to next costume because it wants to forever be going next, 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 up, down. But we want it to wait. So we want there to be a little bit of a pause with our wings up and a little bit of a pause with our wings down, and that is under control. We're going to pull over the wait 1 second, but I don't want it to be a full second. I want it to be 0.1 seconds. All right, so now we can run our code. Remember, we run it by clicking on the flag. There we go. Look at that. Flapping, 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 flapping. Very good. Remember, if at any time you need to go back to another video, you can pause and click backwards. You don't have to go at my tempo. That's why we pre-recorded. All right, so now we're going to make some variables. Just like we talked about our key concept, to make it look like gravity, we need variables to do so. So we click over to our orange variable blocks, make a variable. The first one will be speed. We're going to click OK. I don't want it showing up in my stage for this game, so I'm going to click on the check mark. We're going to make another variable, and this one is going to be score. And I do want my score to show up in my game, so I'm going to leave that blue box checked. Very good, so let's add some code that includes our variables. So we're going to have another when the flag is clicked under the Events tab. We go to Variables. So we're starting at the start of our game. So we're going to set the score. I bet you know what it's going to be set to. 0. Very good. So when the game first starts, we want our score to be reset to 0. This is when we're going to make our bird smaller. So we go to Looks, and we're going to set size. Let's do 30% because I drew my bird quite large. Motion. Remember, we want our sprite to start in the center of our stage. So that is go to X0, Y0. Remember, those are our coordinates. Then we have variables. Set speed. So we're going to drop this down. Now we want to change the speed to 0 as well because it's not going anywhere. Then we have a control. We're going to do a repeat until block. And we're going to fill this part in a little bit later. Right now we're just going to fill in the block. So we want to change our speed. Variables, change, drop it down, speed. by negative 0.15. Very good. And we also want to change where it is on our y-axis. So remember, if we're doing gravity, gravity is up and down, and our y-axis is the up and down axis. So to change where it is, that's motion, change y by, and we want this to be changed by speed, right? We don't want to give it an exact coordinate. We want the computer to do that math for us. So we go to variables, we're going to pull over the variable speed that we created, and we should be able to test our code. So my bird is going to fall, and then just hang out, fall, and then hang out. Cool. Very, very good. Don't worry, we are going to adjust our code in just a second. So we have made our sprites move by following our mouse, by doing the arrow keys. Today we are going to use our space bar to make our sprite move. So let's go to events. When the space key pressed, and we want to change our speed by 5. So the speed over here is going negatively, meaning that that's gravity pulling our bird down. So when we press our space bar, we want a positive number because that means it's going to be moving up on the y-axis. So we are going to go to variables, change, drop it down for speed by 5. All right, so now test your code. You should be able to press your space bar to try and keep your bird around the middle of your screen. Very good. There we go. We're going to add some sound. So we click on the Sounds tab, Sound Library. Going to type in bird because there's lots of different options. Remember, if you roll over the purple buttons, you can hear what they sound like. I'm just going to choose bird. I'm going to put that in my sound library. I go back to code. I'm going to go to sound, and it should say play sound bird until done. I'm going to drag it over. And there you go. So now when you press your space bar, it should make bird sounds. Cool. Step 10. So this is fun in and of itself, but let's make an obstacle for our bird to fly through. So I'm going to make some very rectangular looking mountains today. Feel free to make your mountains look the way you want. I'm going to hover over and we're going to make mountain sprites or an obstacle sprite. So I'm going to choose the paint again. So we should have a new sprite show up in our sprites pane. And I'm going to choose our rectangle tool again. And I'm going to choose brown. I'm going to choose, let's see, it's still a little red. There we go. There we go. There's a dark brown. I'm going to draw a rectangle up here. I'm going to Control-C, Control-V, that copy and paste, so I know that my obstacles are the same size. And I'm going to drop it down here. Oh, but look, if my bird has to fly through them, I'm going to have to be really good to get my bird to go through there. So let's click back on these mountain sprites, and I'm going to move my mountains a little farther. That gives me some leeway to fly my bird, fly, fly, fly. Very good. So again, you can make yours more of a triangle. You can add some snow. That's going to matter later. If you decided to do like a snow-topped mountain, you're going to have to change your code in just a little bit, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But feel free to come in here and make your mountains however extravagant you want. Okay, so now we need to make our mountains move. So we're going to go back to the code. We want to make sure that that sprite 2, we can name it mountains. Okay, so we want to make sure our mountains are up selected, so we're changing their code. We want our mountains to move when the flag is clicked, so we start the game all together. So remember that's under events, when flag clicked. Then we have motion, because we want them to start at a certain place, so go to X, Y. We want them to start at X 300, so all the way over to the right. And Y, let's pick something random to make our game more fun. Remember, picking random is under operators. We drag that and drop it inside there. The first one's going to be -100 to +100. We want them to stay kind of in the middle so our bird's not having to fly up and do some crazy stuff. So we'll just pick random negative to +100. Then we want a forever loop underneath control because we want this to continually happen during our game. We want to change X by -2, meaning that our mountains are going to move to the left, so it looks like our bird is flying forward. So to change X by -2, that's under motion. Change X by, and we click in here, -2. Then we have another control. We have an if-then loop. So if, we've got some math happening, math as operators. If something is less than, so we want to pick the less than operator, -180. And we want that to be, so if we're changing our X, so then if our X position is less than 180, so remember that's under motion, scroll, here's my X position, so where I am on the X axis is less than -180, then we have a motion, go to X 300, and Y we are going to do another pick random, and that is going to be the -100 to +100 again. And we want to change our score. That means we kind of won that round. So variables, change, drop it down, score. We've been counting by ones. Let's count by 10. So we're going to change our score by 10. And let's play a sound. So we're going to play sound pop until done. But instead of pop, I'm going to do a loop. So let's go to sounds, sound library. I already know what I want mine to sound like. So I'm going to choose Dance Magic. Go back to my code. And now when I drop it down, I should be able to choose Play Sound Dance Magic until done. Very cool. So we can test our code. Right now, okay, so we have our mountains, they're moving. But see, if my bird touches the mountain, nothing happens. So we know that in a game, if you're going to put in an obstacle, you have to avoid that obstacle. So now we need to write code for this obstacle. We are going to add that to the bird sprite, to good old Joe. So make sure that you are on whatever you named your bird, you're on your bird sprite. And remember I said we were going to add something, the repeat until? Well, now we have the mountains that we can put in here. So we want to repeat this code until the bird Joe touches the mountains. So remember, touching is in sensing, but we want it to whenever it's touching the color. So if you added snow-topped mountains or whatever, you want to make sure that this color right here matches the part of the obstacle that Joe is going to touch. So remember, if we click on this color and we click down here to the dropper, I can hover over here and it's the exact brown that we don't want it to hit. So you'll do the same thing, drop down, and you'll hover over whatever that color is that you don't want Joe to hit. Then we've got an event. We're going to broadcast game over. And it's going to go at the very bottom of our code. But right now we need to give it that. So we're going to click on new message. We're going to type in game over and click OK. And we also want our bird to say game over. So we go to looks. Where it says hello, we're going to type in game over for 2 seconds. And then we want the game to stop. So remember, stop all is under the control. We pull over stop all. So we want the game to totally stop. Okay, so now we've told Joe what to do, but we also need to tell our mountains that the game is over. So if you have a stop broadcast or broadcast over here, we want our mountains to receive that broadcast. So we go to events. When I receive game over, so when I receive the game over from Joe, I am going to, under control, stop all, but I'm going to scroll down on this all and I'm going to choose other scripts and Sprite, meaning when I receive the game over, I'm going to stop this code, this script. Awesome, we are almost there, friends. We just go to our backdrop. I'm going to choose Blue Sky 2. You can choose what you want. You can create your own backdrop. You all know how to do that by now if you've made it to week 8 with me. I'm going to make it large, and here we go. Ooh. Let's see. Okay, so see, if I hit my mountain, it says game over. Up. All right, guys. Great job today. Feel free to go back in and change those variables, change the speed of your bird, change the speed of your mountains. We've already learned how you can make things go faster and how you can change songs every time they go faster. So feel free to go back to that game and that code and add to this one. Build upon what you're learning. Thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to come back same time, same place next week. Thanks, guys.